Hello and welcome back to A Christmas Carol Annotate with me. We are going to be continuing on with Stave 2 today. So we've already met Scrooge in school. We've also met his sister Little Fan, and we found out quite a lot about his childhood in the previous bit of the stave. We are now moving on to him a little bit older and him at his first place of work as an apprentice. Okay, so you might want to pause here so you can go and grab your copy of the text, a pen and a highlighter, and if you have printed off the revision booklet, that is in the description box below, then please grab that, because we will also be adding some quotations at the end of the session today. Okay, so let's get started. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it. "I know it," said Scrooge. "Was I apprenticed here?" They went in, at sight of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig sitting behind such a high desk that if he had been 2 inches taller he must have knocked his head against the ceiling. Scrooge cried in great excitement, "Why, it's old Fezziwig! Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig alive again!" So Scrooge sees the image of his old boss, who he's really excited to see, and we'll find out in a moment why he's so excited to see this particular employer. Old Fezziwig laid down his pen and looked up at the clock, which pointed to the hour of 7. He rubbed his hands, adjusted his capacious waistcoat, laughed all over himself, from his shoes to his organ of benevolence, and called out in a comfortable, oily, rich, fat, jovial voice. So here we've got the semantic field or the lexical field of positivity used when Dickens describes Fezziwig, the character of Fezziwig. The description of his jovial, kind employer is a complete contrast to the Scrooge that we met in Stave 1. So remember when Scrooge is seen as an employer with Bob Cratchit as his clerk, and the way he behaves with him is really cold and rude. However, this is a direct contrast to him. The language has been chosen to emphasize that Fezziwig exists to do good, unlike Scrooge, who previously existed to make money. "Yo-ho there, Ebenezer! Dick!" Scrooge's former self, now grown a young man, came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow prentice. "Dick Wilkins, to be sure," said Scrooge to the ghost. "Bless me, yes, there he is. He was very much attached to me, was Dick." So we see here that Scrooge was previously well liked, and perhaps the ghost needs to remind Scrooge of such so that he can see the benefit of himself, of changing, so that he can be liked again, and he knows how good it felt to be liked, to be loved, to be appreciated. So this is a hopeful reminder for Scrooge to try and form bonds, because it's important for not only those around you but for yourself as well. Poor Dick, dear dear. "Yo-ho, my boys," said Fezziwig. "No more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up," cried old Fezziwig with a sharp clap of his hands, "before a man can say Jack Robinson." Fezziwig treats his employers like human beings as opposed to mere working machines. It shows his compassionate and caring attitude. This is also a reference, perhaps, to context, so AO3. The message that Dickens is sending to the rich employers is that they need to be fair and jolly. They need to treat their employees like actual human beings rather than mere working machines. If workers are treated with care and consideration, they will respond with eagerness and have a good work ethic, which we'll see right now with the way the workers respond to this direction and instruction from Fezziwig. You wouldn't believe how those 2 fellas went at it. They charged into the street with the shutters. 1, 2, 3, had 'em up in their places. 4, 5, 6, barred 'em and pinned 'em 7, 8, 9, and came back before you could have got to 12, panting like racehorses. So another careful, this word charged is another careful verb choice to reveal the exuberance of these young employees to please Fezziwig and listen to his instructions because of how much they respect him. "Hilly-ho!" cried old Fezziwig, skipping down from the high desk with wonderful agility. "Clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here. Hilly-ho, Dick! Cheer up, Ebenezer!" Clear away! There was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away or couldn't have cleared away with old Fezziwig looking on. So they're excited to work for Fezziwig and please him because of the respect and love they have for him, due to the kind way he treats them as employees. So this shows that if you are appreciated, you will always go above and beyond, and because Fezziwig appreciates them as employees, they go above and beyond for him and do it with excitement and happiness as well. It was done in a minute. Every movable was packed off as if it were dismissed from public life for evermore. The floor was swept and watered, the lamps were trimmed, fuel was heaped upon the fire, and the warehouse was as snug and warm and dry and bright a ballroom as you would desire to see upon a winter's night. In came a fiddler with a music book, and went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it, and tuned like 50 stomachaches. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast substantial smile. In came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. Even Fezziwig's family members emulate his jovial persona. This shows the impact that he's had on those around him. So his positive, happy, kind, jovial personality rubs off on those around him, particularly his family members. In came the 6 young followers whose hearts they broke. In came all the young men and women employed in the business. In came the housemaid with her cousin, the baker. In came the cook with her brother's particular friend, the milkman. In came the boy from over the way, who was suspected of not having bored enough from his master, trying to hide himself behind the girl from next door but one, who was proved to have had her ears pulled by her mistress. In they all came, one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came, anyhow and everyhow. Away they all went, 20 couple at once, hands half round and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round in various stages of affectionate grouping. Old top couple always turning up in the wrong place, new top couple starting off again as soon as they got there, all top couples at last, and not a bottom one to help them. So we see here that everyone is welcome to Fezziwig's party. This reveals Fezziwig's generosity, so another stark contrast between Scrooge and Fezziwig as employers. Scrooge is so miserly, remember in Stave 1 when we saw Scrooge as being so miserly that he wouldn't even give Bob, his clerk, a new piece of coal for his fire, while Fezziwig is so generous that he invites everyone he knows to this party, regardless of their position in his life or in business. When this result was brought about, old Fezziwig, clapping his hands to stop the dance, cried out, "Well done!" and the fiddler plunged his hot face into a pot of porter, especially provided for that purpose. But scorning rest upon his reappearance, he instantly began again, though there were no dancers yet, as if the other fiddler had been carried home, exhausted on a shutter, and he were a brand new man resolved to beat him out of sight or perish. There were more dances, and there were forfeits, and more dances, and there was cake, and there was negus, and there was a great piece of cold roast, and there was a great piece of cold boiled, and there were mince pies and plenty of beer, but the great effect of the evening came after the roast and boiled, when the fiddler, an artful dog-mind, the sort of man who knew his business better than you or I could have told it him, struck up, "Sir Roger de Coverley." Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig, top couple too, with a good stiff piece of work cut out for them, 3 or 4 and 20 pair of partners, people who were not to be trifled with, people who would dance, and had no notion of walking. But if they had been twice as many, 4 times, old Fezziwig would have been a match for them, and so would Mrs. Fezziwig. As to her, she was worthy to be his partner in every sense of the term. If that's not high praise, tell me higher and I'll use it. A positive light appeared to issue from Fezziwig's calves. They shone in every part of the dance like moons. You couldn't have predicted at any given time what would have become of them next, and when old Fezziwig and Mrs. Fezziwig had gone all through the dance, advance and retire, both hands to your partner, bow and curtsy, corkscrew, thread the needle and back again to your place, Fezziwig cut so deftly that he appeared to wink with his legs and came upon his feet again with a stagger. So Dickens is describing here Fezziwig and Mrs. Fezziwig's dancing, how full of energy their dances were, mimicking their personalities. When the clock struck 11, this domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took their stations, one on either side of the door, and shaking hands with every person individually as he or she went out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas. So the Fezziwigs treat all of their employers equally, which is appreciated by Scrooge, will later see. Okay, so they make everybody feel like they're special, feel like they're valued. When everybody had retired but the 2 prentices, they did the same to them, and thus the cheerful voices died away, and the lads were left to their beds, which were under a counter in the back shop. During the whole of this time, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in the scene, and with his former self. He corroborated everything, remembered everything, enjoyed everything, and underwent the strangest agitation. Scrooge is as excited by the memory here as when he really experienced it this particular Christmas. The rule of 3 of corroborated everything, remembered everything, enjoyed everything emphasizes his excitement. These reminders of happy Christmases are really crucial to Scrooge's desire to change and need for redemption. It was not until now, when the bright faces of his former self and Dick were turned from them, that he remembered the ghost and became conscious that it was looking full upon him, while the light upon its head burnt very clear. So the renewed fervour of the light of this spirits could represent that this ghost work is almost done. So he's hopeful, the ghost is hopeful that Scrooge will be willing to change. A small matter, said the ghost, to make these silly folks so full of gratitude. So the ghost is saying it's only a tiny thing that Fezziwig did, and it's made all of these people so happy and so grateful. Small? Echoed Scrooge. The spirits signed to him to listen to the 2 apprentices, who were pouring out their hearts in praise of Fezziwig, and when he had done so, said, so they're listening to Dick and Scrooge speak about how praise Fezziwig with all of their hearts, showing a really how much they respect Fezziwig and how loved Fezziwig is because of the way he treats them. Why, is it not? He has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves this praise? So the ghost is almost pulling Scrooge's leg here, waiting for a response from him, saying, I mean, it's only a few pounds that he spent on his workers and all of these people. So what? It's only a small, tiny thing. Does he really deserve this amount of praise? And this is Scrooge's response. It isn't that, said Scrooge, heated by the remark. So heated shows that he's angry by the ghost's comments and how emotionally he responds to the ghost's comments. And speaking unconsciously like his former, not his latter self. So he speaks like the person he used to be when he was an apprentice working for Fezziwig. It isn't that, Spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, so he's got the power to make us happy or unhappy because obviously he's their employer. To make our service light or burdensome, so to make their work light or heavy, so make it hard for them or easy for them, and he chooses to make it easy for them. A pleasure or a toil, so to make them happy or miserable, and he decides to make them happy. Say that his power lies in words and looks, so his power, Fezziwig's power doesn't lie in money, Scrooge is saying. His power lies in the way that he treats them, so the way that he speaks to them so kindly, and the way he looks at them with kindness and respect. In things so slight and insignificant that it is impossible to add and count them up, what then? So he's saying that he does so many things that make Fezziwig did so many things for them as employees that would seem insignificant, unimportant, but actually all of them added up to make them feel the way they did, to make them feel respected and to make them feel valued, that it's impossible to count how many times he made them feel this way. Scrooge realizes the value of kindness and realizes how little it costs materially, which is contrasted with the benefit it has. So the benefit it has on him, he realizes that kindness is priceless. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. So we see here the use of hyperbole. So his kindness is contrasted with fortune, with money, and how it's as great as if it cost a fortune. Shows how highly Scrooge views Fezziwig, and is also a reminder that it's not so much the cost of the gift that someone gives or the things that someone gives that brings joy. So it's not material objects that bring joy, but it's more the manner in which it's given. So it's the way people treat you, the words people use, their actions towards you. So it makes us wonder why Scrooge hadn't learnt this good behaviour and positive attitude from his employer. So it's not really justified the way he treats Bob in Stave 1. He felt the spirit glance and stopped. "What is the matter?" asked the ghost. "Nothing particular," said Scrooge. "Something, I think," the ghost insisted. "No," said Scrooge, "no. I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now, that's all." So he wishes he could speak to Bob just now. So we see this repetition of structure. So the repetitive pattern of Scrooge's journey and the lessons he continues to learn. So he relates specific memories to recent events from previous real day events. So for example, when he saw Little Fan, he started thinking about the way he treated Fred when Fred came to invite him for Christmas dinner, or when he saw his old self in school lonely, he thought about the way he treated the carol singers. So it's really important, this repetitive pattern and the structure that's used to remind Scrooge about his journey and the lessons that he continues to learn. Okay, so that's our section of Stave 2 done for today. We will carry on with Stave 2 and finish off with Stave 2 in the next video. I will now take you on to the revision booklet. So these are the quotations that we've recorded from Stave 2, so Scrooge the Apprentice. So he was very much attached to me, was Dick. There was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away or couldn't have cleared away with old Fezziwig looking on. Shaking hands with every person individually as he or she went out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it costs a fortune. So you might want to pause it here so that you can record these quotations inside your copy of the booklet. There's also a little bit here about context. So in the presentation of Fezziwig, Dickens is sending a message to the rich employers. They need to treat their workers with fairness, kindness and respect. They need to treat their employees like actual human beings rather than mere working machines. If workers are treated with care and consideration, they will respond with eagerness, have a good work ethic, and more importantly, they'd feel happy and valued. So you might want to pause here so that you can write this contextual bit down as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please remember to comment, subscribe and like the video if you are finding our videos helpful. if you have anything else to write about this particular scene, or if you have any other interpretations that you'd like to offer, please feel free to comment, to write a comment in the description box, or if you can relate anything else to context that we haven't mentioned in this video, then feel free to do that. I'd really love to read your responses. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.